Welcome to Webseriesonfire.com, where talented filmmakers share their inspiring stories from concept to execution. And now, here is your host, Peter Papagiorgio.
Welcome to Webseriesonfire.com. I'm your host, Peter Papagiorgio, and I'm going to be sharing the stories and journeys of the creators of the hottest new web series in the entertainment industry. My guest today is a writer, producer, and an actor. His name is Steven Strangio. I hope I said that right.
How you doing, Peter?
Hey.
And that's Strangio, Strangio, whatever works for you.
Okay, thanks. And he has a web series called Clip Joint. Actually, it's one of many other web series. Steve, are you ready to ignite the entertainment industry with your web series?
Absolutely. I'm ready to go. I got a flamethrower. Let's do this.
Why did I sound like Joe Franklin when I did that?
Lovely. I met Joe Franklin, actually.
So did I. I don't think too many people are going to know who he is, but...
Classic. He's a classic man.
He's a real classic, my friends. He died, I think, last year, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, you want to give us a quick glimpse of your personal life? Or it doesn't have to be quick. Just give us a glimpse.
Yeah. Well, basically, I started off a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I grew up in a town called Long Island, a town called Oceanside, Long Island. And basically, I don't want to say I was a class clown, but I was always the one who was always having fun, wherever I possibly could have fun. Played a lot of sports when I was younger, and got involved in as many things as humanly possible. I always keep myself open to, as many things to do. So growing up, I was always, always the one entertaining. My very first time on stage was a fifth grade talent show doing an impersonation of Elvis Presley, which I think was awesome. And then it kind of moved on. And then as I got older, I found out that performing was just an interesting way just to make life more fun. I started doing stand-up comedy when I was 17 years old.
Wait, out in Long Island or?
Out on Long Island.
Which clubs?
Well, there was three main clubs when I started. There was East Side Comedy. That was the first time I was on stage. I first started off at the East Side Comedy Club that was in Huntington, and then it moved to Farmingdale, Long Island. And then it was at Chuckles.
I remember going to Chuckles, yes. I remember going to Chuckles and Governors, yeah.
Chuckles, I actually did a whole bunch of shows there where we hosted a show. It was called John Bizarre's Flamethrower Comedy Bash with Free Helium. And John Bizarre was the host, and a bunch of friends of mine, Rob Graydon, Craig Mitchell, Mary Ellen Hooper, just a talented group of really fun, creative performers.
Was this,
we did a comedy
the 80s?
sketch show.
1980s or?
This was the 80s, the late 1980s, when the comedy club scene was booming. And on Long Island, it was this incubator of so many famous comedians, as you probably already know. So I was playing in a lot of the clubs where, Eddie Murphy and Jerry Seinfeld and all those guys.
I think Dice, too, started there, too, right, Dice?
Dice, I think, was more of a Brooklyn guy.
Okay. So he didn't he didn't play too many Long Island clubs then, no?
He did. He played the Long Island clubs, but I think he originated in Brooklyn. My contemporaries were Kevin James, Jim Brewer, Adam Ferrara, a lot of the guys who are now in charge of Kevin Can Wait, were all part of that group. So I came up with a lot of those guys when I was doing comedy back then, and it was a free for all. Basically, they called you an auditioner, which I think was just a code word for free performer.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah.
You went around to all the clubs, and it was always not really an open mic night, but it was more like there were 10 comedians, maybe sometimes even 20, and maybe like Jackie the Joke Man was hosting something at Governor's.
Jackie the Joke Man, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And he would say, yeah, come on stage, man. And he'd talk for a long time and then introduce a comedian. And you'd have like 10 to 20 comedians in one night, each doing like 5 to 10 minutes. It was almost like karaoke in a way because you had a lot of really talented people, and you could tell maybe within the first, 1 to 2 minutes if they were, good or bad or indifferent, whatever it was. But it was a great training ground to understand what comedy you needed to put out there to the world, and the Long Island audiences were always very honest, and that's a
That's for
euphemism.
sure, yeah. Steve, do you want to tell the audience what Clip Joint, your web series, is about?
Yeah, Steve's Clip Joint essentially started off as me doing exactly what it sounds like. I was introducing clips of movies that I really liked and movies that I found interesting. I even had a website for it for a while. It was sort of like a mini social Facebook where people could come and watch clips and talk about clips, and I'd be on the video, talking to them and doing a really interactive thing. I do want to bring that back eventually, but right now it kind of morphed into something where it's a travelogue where I head out to a lot of Comic-Cons. I've been at for about 7 years running now. I've been at New York Comic-Con doing a travelogue and interviewing the people in the booths, a lot of people who were cosplayers. I interviewed a lot of genre stars like Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless.
Nice,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell, I'm a big fan of Bruce Campbell, big admirer of his. I've met him a few times.
Great speaker. It's like
great guy. He knows how to work a crowd.
He
knows how to work
Yeah.
You can learn so much by watching how this guy works the conventions. And I was filming with this new Steadicam camera that I had, and he was like walking down the line, and he looks at me and he goes, "What the hell is that?" I go, "It's my Steadicam." He goes, "Get over here," and he grabs it, and I'm teaching him how to use my camera, and he scans it around, taking video, and there's Lucy Lawless right next to him. So it was like, I met Ash from Evil Dead and Xena, Warrior Princess, both in the same instance, and on my camera. So that show, Steve's Clip Joint became a travelogue of me interacting with people and just at the Comic-Cons and interviewing and bringing people along for the ride. So it's many different things. It's me as a travelogue, me in a comic book store talking to people, as many clips as possible, mainly focused on fandom. Some people call it geek culture. I call it fandom.
Right, yeah. What inspired you to create the web series? Was it something that was kind of like in your mind for a long period of time?
It was a natural progression of the things that I like to do. And in this world right now, when it comes to podcasting, because I started podcasting in 2005 with an audio podcast.
That's when it first started, yeah.
And we were doing it, and back then at that time, nobody knew how to listen to it, and nobody knew how to monetize it. And it was a real pain because essentially we were doing these amazing shows and having a great time, but nobody knew how to make any money from it. So I did it, like the audio podcast version. We did a few shows. We did the After Party. We did the Foreplay radio show because there were 4 people. The Bash. We did all of these shows, and then like around 2009, I said, okay, well we tried our best, and then like bam, that's when the podcast app hit.
So you actually did it for 4 years. Wow.
We did it for a long time, and we had a lot of listeners, but we just could not monetize the damn thing. So I just continued on, and then streaming became super popular. And then I'm a filmmaker. I'm an indie filmmaker at heart. I've had about 7 of my short films produced. I have 4 full-length screenplays ready to be produced, and I'm also a playwright and all this other stuff. But the streaming was the perfect opportunity for an indie filmmaker to get his work seen by people. So when I do these shows, I don't consider them talk shows. I consider them mini movies, slice of life. I'm taking you along for the ride type of thing, because it's very, podcasting and streaming, and it's a different style of broadcasting. It's more conversational. It's more casual. It's more taking people along for the ride, not talking at them, bringing them as part of your group.
Exactly,
and
right. Yeah.
That's important to me because, I see what Chris Hardwick is doing. I see what Kevin Smith is doing. I'm seeing how all the podcasters are doing. And I really appreciate that. I'm really inspired because I'm not trying to imitate them. I hate imitating what other people do. It's just that I see what they're doing and go, well, that's kind of like what I'm doing. And these guys have a great measure of success. And, I'm marching towards that level of success. And
you're just
taking people on for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're taking the same, a similar business model, but you're making it your own. So.
Yeah, you don't want to be like other people, but you want to say, well, that works and that works and that works.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I seem to be doing the same thing, so I'll just keep doing it.
That's it, and you're having fun. That's the main thing,
You have to, otherwise, then why the heck are you doing this? You know?
Yeah, and you're getting yourself out there. Hey, look, I'm interviewing you, right?
Yes, I'm having a blast.
Now, Steve, what was your? I always ask people, what was your concept to creation when you created Clip Joint? Did you have notes? Did you have any any readings of it?
Well, the way it's like you talk about like how I structure the show or how I came up with the idea for the show.
Because some people have this idea and then they'll write it down as a one-page synopsis and then start breaking into a web series. And
it really it grew from the basic idea of I know what I want to do, and what I want to do is talk about fandom. I want to talk about superhero movies. I want to talk about adventure movies. I want to talk about science fiction movies. So it starts as that germination of an idea, but then much like how you create a show, you just can't. I mean, some people do podcasting where they just like turn on the sound and just start talking, and that's fine. There are a lot of podcasts like that. I think even within Kevin Smith's Smodcast, he'll have a podcast where it's just like him sitting around talking to his friends, which is fine. But then maybe with his other show he does with Ralph Garman, which is called Hollywood Babylon, you can see that there's a structure to that show.
Yeah.
Whereas Ralph's more of a radio guy, and Kevin was like a guest on his radio shows. I think it was like the Kevin and Bean show, and then he saw what Ralph did, and they took it actually in front of a live audience, which I found really fascinating.
Nice.
So it's interesting seeing how the shows create. Now, much like with anything, in this world, podcasting allows people to just be expressive. Anybody can podcast. You have a microphone, you have stuff. But like, if anybody can podcast, that means that you get varying levels of either professionalism or, what type of show you want to do. And it appeals, to a wide range of people. So my specific needs when I do a show is that I will write down a structure and then I'll work within that structure. I won't write down everything. Much like when I do stand-up comedy, you have a set list, and there might be like 10 words on that set list to lead you, to the next word or the next topic.
Right.
So if I'm doing
since it's organic and live, you're going to have that unknown coming in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to just like stop and go, all right, so what do you want to talk about now? I mean, you want to know that you're leading towards something. So if I know that, this first word or this first question is going to lead me to about 5 to 10 minutes worth of content, then at least I know I can structure it out and work within the content. I took that along with me. I did another series, an episodic comedy drama series called A Good Man. And instead of writing out every scene, this is almost like a sitcom shot on location. Mm-hmm. I would write down the beats to the scene and have one person as a captain of that scene. And then that person would drive the scene to bring the conclusion, and you would improvise the dialogue for the entire thing. Now, it wasn't just turn on the camera and hope for the best. No, it's like you knew where the scene was going. You just had to actually fill in dialogue. And that's much like in real life when you have a conversation with somebody. You kind of know what the topic is about, and you're talking about it. You just want to capture that casual, and natural way of talking.
Sure, right, yeah. And when you would, when you're doing your web series, do you have any obstacles you have to overcome? Any funny stories? Or
a lot of it these days is getting people to either listen or watch. Marketing is extremely important when you're doing these shows because, much like I said before, anybody can do a show, but who's listening? Who's watching? How can you continue to do the show? The main obstacle I have right now is like, I do have viewers and I do have listeners. But you always want more, you want to get out
you need to be
to
growing,
the widest.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you talk to other producers, you talk to other people, you're a guest on shows, you want to get the word out to people saying, hey, I'm doing this show. I love to do my shows. I will continue to do my shows. I would love to have you become part of this world because I want to entertain you and get to know you and that type of thing. Because that's what's great about this technology now is that it's more inclusive. Where in the past, before even the internet existed, you watch a show and if you wanted to interact with it, maybe you became part of their fan club.
That's it.
And you wrote them a letter. Now it's, wow, that's really cool. I want to go on their website and leave a post on their Facebook page.
Exactly.
Or tweet them or Instagram them. And it will not only inspire you as the host of the show to create more, but you may get some great ideas for some of these people, and you want to include them as well.
I noticed you're taking advantage of Facebook Live too.
As of late, I've noticed that there are a lot of opportunities to reach the audience directly with Facebook Live. Today, actually, we shot an episode of something called New Comic Book Day, whereas, I have a show, as part of the Steve's Clip Joint Network called Super Action Smash, where myself and this guy named Jason Brown, we hang out at a comic book store in Cedar Grove, New Jersey, Time Warp Comics and Games. Mm-hmm. And we will do a Facebook Live show and talk about 5, stories that are happening out there in fandom. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I decided, something, every Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. Why don't we just get the owner of the show, of Time Warp Comics, Dave, sit down, say, Dave, pick out 5 comics and we're going to talk about them. And that's the show.
That's the show, right? Yeah. That's very organic.
It's very organic, and it's like, people love comic books. I mean, while we're filming it, people are asking questions. We had over 200 views within a half an hour, on the show.
Yeah.
And when we ended the show, Dave's phone started ringing off the hook going, hey, can I get that comic? Is it, and it worked, so it was
bringing business,
product placement.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. It was fun. So, I'm also just about, to get, I'm going to be doing a pilot pretty soon for a Facebook Live thing. And I'm looking to do more Facebook Live shows, and I'm looking to also up the production value of a Facebook Live show, because there's a lot. Do you want
to talk about the pilot, or?
Can't really talk about it right now, unfortunately.
Okay.
But yeah, I wish I could. I really do. But hopefully it's going to be big, and it'll lead me to big.
What kind of camera are you using when you do your shows?
Right now we're just using my iPhone.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. You just, I have an iPhone. I have a Steadicam, to hold it in place. And the iPhone, pumps out some, really good video. So if you have an iPhone, and also you have to understand how to use it, because sometimes some people will just have a static 2 shot, meaning, I know that what that means, but, static 2 is just 2 people. You have the camera on 2 people the entire time. And that's interesting. But I think in this medium, you have to actually create a different camera angle, maybe every 5 to 10 seconds, because it's such a personal medium. I mean, in film, you can do wide-ranging shots. In television, they kind of go for the close-ups. But I think if you're watching something on your iPhone, or if you're watching something on your iPad, or watching it on your computer, you want to feel like the close-ups are really up in there, so you're part of it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So,
and it makes it more engaging, too.
Yeah, exactly. You have to change the angle. You have to show them a new thing. You have to make it seem as if the person viewing it is right there next to you as part of the group.
But also, too, I noticed the big thing now is the cameras are not that expensive. A friend of mine bought the 360 cameras.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are doing that, too. So you actually could, people could, as they watch it on YouTube or something, they could say, hey, what's behind Steve? What comic's that to the left of him? And you could just move the whole shot over. It's fantastic.
That's what's so awesome about, we're living in a world now where something new is happening. While we were talking, they probably invented 10 more things.
It's true. Steve,
and
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's all you. It's all you. It's your show. Go for it.
What's your next plan?
My next plan is to continue building, the Strangio show brand, the Steve's Clip Joint brand, and I'd like to make one home base. Right now it seems to be Time Warp Comics and Games, but to also just get out there and do as many shows as possible.
Yeah.
And just keep going, and just keep and building a network, and giving people as many options as possible to see the types of shows that I do, because I've been doing this for a while now, and I've been involved, I think, in every aspect of entertainment. I'm a playwright, I'm a screenwriter, I'm an actor, and do voiceovers. I mean, I have experience in all the things that I do, and I think this medium, streaming, which is immediate, my shows are on Roku, they're on Apple TV, they're on all the platforms. I like that I can, have people come find me and understand this is what Steve does,
right?
We like what he does, and I appreciate the audience as much as possible. And then I would love to also go out and start doing some live shows as well. I have this great idea for creating sort of a podcast where it's almost like a Q&A, but at the same time, it involves visual aspects of like movie clips, getting out in the audience and talking to them and making them part of the show. I mean, we could start in small clubs and then maybe go to bigger venues, because I want to take everything that I know how to do and I want to make it a show.
Right, yeah. Do you want, as we wrap up, do you want to give your contact information to the audience?
Yeah, if they want to check out my stuff, just go to my main website, and that's where all the links are located. It is SteveStrangioProductions.com. And Strangio is Strangio. So it's SteveStrangioProductions.com. If people have, streaming devices like Roku and such, my shows are on 3 different networks right now. There's My Spotlight TV, and that's at myspotlight.tv. And they also have an app you can download. Just go to My Spotlight TV in the App Store. I'm on the Smart Man channel as part of a company called Fossum. So you can download the Smart Man channel. Uh-huh. And I'm also on Matty G TV, Maddy, Matty G TV. All my shows are there. A Good Man is there, and the Strangio show. But mainly if you go to SteveStrangioProductions.com, all the information is there, and they can watch all the shows and spread the word.
Great. Well, thank you, Steve, for being on WebSeriesOnFire.com.
Thank you for inviting me.
And good luck with everything.
Back at you.
Thank you,
was an awesome
Steve.
show, so thanks for the info.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, that wraps up WebSeriesOnFire.com. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at webseriesonfire@gmail.com. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to WebseriesOnFire.com with your host, Peter Papagiorgio. We'll catch you next time.